Appreciate you taking the time on this beautiful week. I mean, it's been a pretty good week, other than I'm over here melting trying to deal with the heat. So there is that. But what's been going on with you?
Yeah, not too much. Obviously, thank you for having me on. I'm so happy to be here. Just the same thing, working, trying to keep cool. Yeah.
Trying to adjust. Now, I got to tell you what really caught my attention when it comes to your music was the latest single, Homegrown. Now, I saw a bunch of people putting it up, showing love. And real quick before we hop into the song, talk to me about that promo because it felt like the whole city was putting up your song and showing that hometown support.
Oh my gosh, honestly, I just feel so blessed. Admittedly, I'm not the best with like self-promotion or really putting myself out there as an artist. So I was sitting on it for a while, and then the initial, like, I honestly just posted about it once, was just like my post putting up the cover art and announcing the release date. And then I just like let it rock, and then my community just like accepted the song with open arms and like put it out there, which is honestly so blessed, and I'm so thankful for that. Yeah, honestly.
So it wasn't really something that was premeditated because I know a lot of the time people can, sit there for months, maybe even working harder on a promo strategy than the actual song. But for you, it was very much organic.
Yeah, to be completely honest, like I went back and forth so much with kind of deciding if I even wanted to put the song out there. Because if you've listened to any of my other music, it's definitely a different vibe than what
Yeah.
I'm used to putting out there. So it kind of felt like it was a little bit of like taking a risk and maybe showing a side of myself that maybe others weren't 100% privy to. So there was so much back and forth in my mind and between the people I trusted the most about whether or not I was going to put it out or not. So I think that also kind of played a part in terms of like a content strategy. I was like, hey,
Mm.
I'm just going to put it out there and I'll just like let it do its thing. And like, if it's, like I kind of really had no expectations. I was just kind of like, okay, well, I worked really hard on this, and I know I initially was really rocking it with it, my by myself, um, and was just like, okay, like you can just put it out there and it'll be received how it's going to be received. So I just kind of had to just it like really just had a mind of its own. I think at this point,
Took on its own life.
yeah, 100%.
See, that's really cool. And definitely, I mean, when I listen to some of your older tracks, for example, a song like Why Am I Still Here, you're speaking on, not exactly feeling like you know your worth, and there's a lot of different emotions going on there. And then on a song like Homegrown, it's like a graduation from that. You're completely speaking about knowing your worth and basically that other people should know it too. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe if you could speak to that sort of evolution and how you sort of took this step because like you're saying it's different than some of your past work.
Oh yeah, I think. I mean, with songs like especially with Why Am I Still Here, it felt like it was my first step, sorry, towards acceptance of maybe choices that I made, not necessarily from a place of confidence, but something that I felt maybe obligated to do, or like what I thought other people would think was right. And I think for a long time leading up to that point, I was very much kind of seeking that external validation that what I was doing was right, and that I was kind of looking around to see if like what I was doing was what other people are doing. Um, and then when you don't see that, um, I think it kind of led to that little bit of insecurity. Mommy's doing the interview. One sec.
Hey,
He's
shout out to
like,
our
I
guy.
don't. He's like, I don't care what you're doing, girl. Put on the fire truck show.
Yeah, come on, quit
Um,
playing.
oh my gosh, what was I talking about? Right. So yeah, it was kind of just me. Um, After like a long period of kind of just seeking that external validation and kind of receiving it, but then looking around at my life and realizing I still wasn't there. It was like that was kind of like my first step towards realizing that anything I was gonna do I had to first and foremost make sure it was kind of just like right with my soul and listening to my intuition, and regardless of what it looks like externally or to other people, kind of like understanding that my path is unique and who I am is unique, so it's never going to look like what anyone else is doing.
Right.
So then I think since then it's just kind of been this steady process of kind of self reflection and looking back and just kind of really taking note of if I'm still operating from like that place of where I'm needing external validation, or if I'm really listening to myself. And because if like, you know, I release like a single a year, I'm really trying to move past that and be like,
Right.
at least I'm consistent. So
Yeah. Well, we all have
but
our own process too. I mean, it's like you have to have something to say and really talk about. So I mean, I would rather somebody like that than somebody who's forcing it, with a song every 2 months.
100%. And like that's a thing too, where it's like I've written so much music in between all those songs that when it really came down to it, it was like it didn't feel necessarily that it was the best of my best that I could be putting out, or it didn't necessarily feel like a viewpoint that was authentic to me.
Right.
Um and I think around the time, because honestly, I wrote Homegrown actually in February, back in February.
Okay.
And after like a whole long process of like trial and order with writing and figuring out kind of the direction I wanted to go. But I remember right around like I don't know if you believe in or if you follow astrology at all, but I wrote it. It's funny. I wrote it in a during Aquarius season, and Aquarius season, like the sign of Aquarius is like a really big thing about them is that they're so just themselves and they're so unique and they're so kind of just like dedicated to their own path. And I think I really just like took the time to hone in on that energy
Hmm.
and um like talk my shit a little bit.
That's
Kind
it.
of just be
That's all
like
you can do.
a little bit where I was like, you know what? Like I actually like am that girl. Like I do know what I'm doing. And when I can pull the focus back out and look at my whole path, regardless if I was feeling unsure or not, there was always kind of that inner knowing guiding me despite the lessons and stuff like that. And then that's kind of like where I ended up with it. And then I sat on it for a while and then, you know, Bridget, shout out Bridget. She
She
is
killed it.
it, she, in my opinion, is honestly like she also to me is the epitome kind of really just doing what is most authentic to you. So, and I had kind of been in communication with her, not necessarily about music, but I'd been watching her and really loved her vibe and really felt that we were kind of on the same length with that. So that is what led me to kind of ask her because originally it was all me, but then I just thought this could be so much better with whatever it is that she has to offer. And in my opinion, the song simply just wouldn't be what it is without her input. So I'm so thankful for her for being on board and just like lending her magic because like it went crazy after she added what she had to
Yeah.
say on the track as well.
No, it was such a cool mix, and I mean the different flavors and the production as well just gave it such an interesting sound. Like it had a huge amount of authenticity, I would say, with your voice. Like it wasn't overproduced, but then you guys really had that production swagger as well later in the song. I mean, so you would think that it sort of took a big turn once Bridget jumped on it. It sort of took on, like you say, a life of its own at that point.
Exactly that. And even because I had done so many versions of just me. And then when I decided I was like, I would have loved, like, I opened up the doors kind of for Bridget to do her thing even after that. And I appreciate her so much and just like her integrity with it as well, because so many times she sent me versions and she's like, I can go harder. I can do better than this. Like, I can do better. So she probably did like, she it has to be between 4 to 6 takes of Bridget kind
Wow.
of popping on. Yeah, we really did not, because if we had all the time in the world to really do what we wanted to do with it, like, I think we should just give ourselves that time. And then when it's done, it's done. Because the song, I think originally I wanted to put it out had to be like May or something
Okay.
like that,
Wow. Okay.
or
So you
maybe
guys were working on it for
March.
a little while.
Yeah, like it really was a process, but I do appreciate it as well because sometimes again, like even though I feel like I've evolved so much past the point that I was when I wrote "Why Am I Still Here," like sometimes there's like still that lingering kind of voice in your head of like who you used to be that can still kind of, it's like it's there in your head.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really, really glad that like it was so validating to allow myself to take as much time as I intuitively felt that the track needed, and then having like the finished product and seeing how well it's being received, even though like if it wasn't well received, I think there still would have been so many lessons within that process.
Right.
But yeah, it's just been so validating in the sense that like I do move a little bit slower in my methods and the way that I do things. But again, that just like even if I'm releasing one track a year, that's still consistency because it's like I'm still kind of on brand. I'm still moving the same way, and I
Hmm.
think now that like I've kind of got that flow, that not to say that I'll put out stuff more consistently, but I'm kind of like a lot more comfortable with putting songs out there, and
Yeah.
putting myself out there in that way. So yeah, it's been awesome.
See, I would imagine that this whole process too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that this would help you evolve in other ways than just music as well. I mean, we're talking about getting rid of sort of limiting beliefs about yourself, or seeking external validation. Do you find that this is something that helps you in general, even outside of your craft?
Yeah, 100%. Um, Especially for the longest time, even in terms of work, work is a really big thing for me right now. I'm finally kind of in a career, which I never, as an artist, I think sometimes, and especially because as soon as I started singing in Edmonton, I've constantly been surrounded by, Edmonton is just like a gold mine for creativity and artistry. There's so many talented people here, and I've watched so many people pursue their artistry and it be kind of the only thing that they do. Not the only
Hmm.
thing that they do, but like being able to kind of rely on it um, as their career and what they wanted to do. And that would have all been fine if if I didn't end up having my son. He's almost 3, so almost 3 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that put a huge shift into my perspective where a lot of the things I was doing, it just stopped making sense. Like once you're a parent and you're not living for yourself anymore. So even in terms of a career and looking around at my peers and my people that I admire and kind of getting a job and landing in a career, um, that's just my path, and I feel so confident in that path, and even the stability that I've been able to manifest from being in that place but still have time to do everything that I love to do, even though maybe working at a typical 9 to 5 is something that I avoided for a really long time.
Right.
But I feel it's added so much more to my life in that sense. Even in terms of my relationships, I feel a lot more confident as myself, a lot more open even to um, conflict, because I
Mm.
feel like one thing about wanting to always do the right thing, I think sometimes there becomes a fear of you don't want to step on anybody's toes, you don't want to say the wrong thing, you don't want to offend anybody. But when you become a people pleaser in that way, you also kind of take on this air of like disingenuity, and like because you're just kind of putting on whatever mask to please whoever's around you in that moment and
Exactly.
constantly tiptoeing.
You
And
can't be authentic if you're constantly agreeable.
yeah, and if it's taught me, even in terms of like my music, hey, if I'm doing something people don't like, or if somebody doesn't like me, that means that I know that I'm being true to myself, and that means like I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? If
Right.
no, yeah, even though it's like counterintuitive, because regardless of what you do, like there's always going to be reasons people don't like you. There's always going to be someone who's like not rocking with your art or whatever the case is. So you might as well go hard as hell and just do it the way that you want to.
See, it's refreshing too, though, because it doesn't seem like you have this sort of craving for celebrity or stardom that, many people in this field seem to have. Like, I feel like if you got super famous tomorrow, let's say you just 10 million followers tomorrow, I feel like you'd be one of those celebrities who's like just chilling, who just wants to share their work, but is doesn't even necessarily want to be famous. I mean, is that a correct sort of reading of your vibe? Because it seems to me like you're more in it for the art.
That is absolutely an accurate assessment. I admire it is something a little bit that I do feel self-conscious of because again, I feel like I'm constantly around so many talented artists who are doing the content runs, who are, putting themselves out there in that way and are doing such an amazing job and are showing up like so professionally. And then sometimes I'm just like, I'm just like a girl who just does it when I can, and when it's done, I'll just put it out there, and it is what it is, or it is what it isn't. But it allows me to approach it, I would say, at a place from a place that's a lot more relaxed, and there's almost no pressure on it. So I love it's like I just don't want to pressure myself into doing something. I'm not trying to do it for like the sake of just like creating content or just putting or like getting plays or getting this or getting that. It's more so just this is what I love to do. It's always what I've loved to do. And I think we're like that just the what I put behind my music is something that even if it's one person that can hear it and vibe with it, or it's something that they need to hear and it validates them within themselves, that's more so what I'm focused on because the most impactful moments for music in me has always been after a show. I haven't performed in a while, but after a show, or if I release a song and someone messages me after and they're like, "Your music resonates with me so much. I feel like I'm in this place, and it's so nice to know you're not alone," or anything like that. That is like more valuable than gold, in my opinion. So,
Yeah. No, that's a huge one for sure. I think we should normalize people just creating because they actually enjoy it. Because again, I mean, the
mhm.
space is so saturated with people who are seeking things. It's like I say, it's a refreshing thing to come across.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, for sure. So, I mean, in terms of collaborating with people, I mean, how often are you collaborating? Because I know, you mentioned doing shows. I saw you put up a post that said you and your band there for the show had a 20-minute rehearsal and then you guys were ready to rock. I mean, talk to me about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love collaborating. I love mixing energy with people who seem to be kind of coming from the same place, or just in general, of seeing what other people are doing or being able to add to somebody's experience or someone being able to add to mine. I think that's a huge part of art as well as community. Um, so that show that was actually last June, and there is a really great band. They're called the Victors. So we got Victor on guitar, you got Victor on drums, and then
Okay.
we Jeremy
It sounds
Jeremy was
familiar. I
on the
think I've heard
bass.
of these guys.
Yeah, they're amazing. And I had asked them to just do the gig with me. And just because life is busy, the only time we all had a moment to kind of get together to run the set list was literally like 1 hour before before the show was supposed to happen. But and honestly, like it was all them. All I had to do was play my backing tracks, and it was honestly magical. Like maybe 3 to 5 minutes per song, and they just like knew the chord progressions by ear. They knew they added their own flavor to it and kind of took every track and evolved it into something completely new. And
Wow.
it was yeah, it was so much fun. The show went super super well. They're amazing. It was just such a good time. Yeah, and then other than that, I think in studio I collaborate with lots of artists. I work right now really closely with Matt Byrnell from NVMA.
Very good.
He's a really talented producer. He is a huge reason on why Homegrown is the way that it is. Him and Jake Roberts did a really good job kind of mixing and mastering that, and were so nice to me every time I wanted to come into the studio every week. Be like, I just listened to the demo again, and I just want to change this part. Like so many times, they were
A
so
constant
gracious with
evolution.
me. Yeah, they were so patient with me and so supportive, and that was great. You've got CX to the world. You've got, like,
Hmm.
I could go on, and I still have a laundry list of people. Golden Child. There's so many wonderful, talented artists in the city that I just have the pleasure of working with all the time, and it is a part of kind of what also makes it so much fun.
For sure. Now, who would, like, if I was to ask your artist Mount Rushmore, who would you put up on that list for a top four and why?
Oh, like of all time?
Yeah, well, I would say your favorites because for me it's like ranking the greats of all time is different than favorites. So like maybe who you listen to the most or who's impacted you the most.
Okay, let me think. Because even sometimes it's not even the artist sonically, it's the attitude
Yeah.
and just the vibe they put out. But I'm gonna put Caliuchis up there. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking immediately? Caliuchis. I'm also really love Amaray,
Okay.
Amy Winehouse, and Cleo Soul.
Oh, that's a nice list. Now I could hear a bit of the Amy Winehouse influence in your tracks. Actually, there was just a little bit of that cadence in there. So would you say that's somebody who maybe has inspired you?
She really has. I think growing up, my parents were also always like they were always playing music. It's a very constant thing, like listening to music all the time. My mom was a really, really big Amy Winehouse fan. And I didn't take any vocal lessons till I was 16, but I'd been singing since I was 5.
Wow.
So a lot of me learning to sing was kind of just listening to the artists that my mom and my dad would play, and anything that I liked, I would kind of try to emulate that. So I think that plays a big part in kind of my sound and how I was influenced.
What's your favorite musical memory?
My favorite musical memory? I think probably one of my favorite musical memories was actually when I was 16 and I started taking vocal lessons for the first time just to kind of gain some technique. I had this wonderful teacher. Her name was Michelle, and I still remember her to this day. Um, I I remember coming in and kind of showing her what I could do, and I just remember her being so elated, and she just gave me so much love and told me, like, she's like, you are just like great as you are. I'm so excited to work with you, and I'm so excited to build this up. So after working with her, I think it's like my vocals took on a whole other level, and I think it's like so important, especially as a youth, when you're growing up and you have a teacher or a person of authority who sees you for like who you are and takes the time to nurture that and help grow it within you, because yeah, that's just like such a so every like Thursday evening from like 16 to 17 when I'd go in for music lessons was just like such a safe place and just such
Mm.
a good like environment just for my growth.
Now, would you say that that's a crucial thing for anybody who's coming up? Because I would agree, at least for me, you know, having people in the broadcasting space who sort of lent a hand, that was a game changer for sure.
Totally. I believe at every point on anyone's journey or path that at a certain point they kind of run into a mentor, or like the gates open for them, or someone like extends a hand because they see someone for who they are and sees what they're capable of. And mentorship is something that I think everybody needs. Like, needs just because of how beneficial it could be, not necessarily that they kind of lack the ability to get there themselves.
Mhm.
But I know it would definitely take a lot longer without a teacher. So it's just like mentorship is such a beautiful point along the journey where you kind of just like, oh, someone sees me for who I am, and it reinstills the passion and the fire in you, and it validates you in that way as well. So I wish it for everybody.
Couldn't agree more. Final question for you, Mattia, and I appreciate you taking the time. Your guilty pleasure song, what would you say it is?
I'm like so annoyed that I thought of the song immediately, but On the Floor by Ice JJ Fish.
Okay, hey, that's a pretty good one, actually. That's actually the number one the number one person when people roast me in the comments. They'll call me Ice JJ Fish. That's one of my favorites,
No.
by the way. I love it. No, I think it's hilarious. I'm about to be bumping that song all night. Uh, yeah, I gotta say anything by Red Hot Chili Peppers. For me, I'm embarrassed
Mm.
how much I like them because some of the lyrics leave a lot to be desired, but they're definitely up there. 100%. So listen, Mattia, I appreciate you taking the time. You honestly have had great insight, and the music is great. So, I mean, what can you let people know about where to find you and what's coming up next?
Yes, you can find me. I am on Instagram, obviously at matt.3a. I do have music up also on YouTube Music. You can catch me outside if I ever am outside at any point downtown somewhere if you're like in alignment. Yeah, right now mostly I'm continuing to explore my sound and continue what else I can do. And my hopes for the next little while are to build up a well-structured EP and go from there.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm really excited to hear it, and I'll keep my eye out if there's any performances or anything while I'm in Edmonton. I'll be at the probably at the Young and Moore show coming up, so we'll see who's
Amazing.
popping out coming up soon. But again, thanks for making some time tonight, and hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you again for giving me this opportunity and hearing me out. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a good night too.